If there's any franchise I immediately associate with developer Inti-Creates, it's Gunvolt. The first two entries of this 2D action platforming series were among my favorite during my teenage years, though I admittedly missed out on the third, and from what I've seen, incredibly diverse entry. Following the release of those 3 games and multiple spin-offs, I hadn't actively thought about Gunvolt in quite some time, especially with Inti-Creates prioritizing new IPs in recent years. However, Gunvolt is back and grander than ever with Azure Striker Gunvolt Trilogy Enhanced, a collection of 3 mainline titles in one package bolstered by gameplay refinements and new features to sweeten the deal. Initially planned as only a physical release in Japan, fan demand has brought that collection digitally worldwide. Revisiting these side-scrolling greats has reaffirmed my love for them, with addictive replay value at the heart of the experience. So, let's get into it.
思考を超えるこの光景と呼ばれる力思っていた以上だ模造品とはいえこのセブンスの高まりこれがスネアギの技術かそして
The Azure Striker Gunvolt Trilogy is set in a sci-fi world where various antagonists attempt to disrupt society by harnessing a supernatural phenomenon known as Septima. Certain individuals, called adepts, wield Septima in unique ways, such as controlling all forms of specific elements. Leading the charge against these forces is the titular Gunvolt, wielder of the Azure Striker Septima, which grants him command over electricity. The first game in the series begins with Gunvolt abandoning his official duties to protect a girl named Jewel, who's actually tied to a larger plot orchestrated by the antagonistic Sumeragi group. This mission eventually brings Gunvolt into contact with numerous key figures across the trilogy, including Copen, a rival of sorts who becomes playable in the second game. This debut adventure keeps its narrative relatively straightforward, focusing on Gunvolt's efforts to protect Jewel. Her importance lies in her Septima form, Lumen the Muse, whose songs provide powerful effects. The story works fine, but the second game is where the plot becomes more involved and, in my view, more compelling. Copen takes center stage alongside Gunvolt, bringing his own supporting cast, distinctive movesets, and personal motivations. His characterization ultimately feels more fleshed out than Gunvolt's, and the plot serves as a strong sequel, setting high expectations for the third game, which arrived over a half a decade later. Azure Striker Gunvolt 3, however, is the trilogy's black sheep, largely due to its writing choices. Without getting too heavy into spoilers, it takes a direction that feels both bold and oddly hesitant, moving away from what came before. A new protagonist, Kirin, enters the scene long after the events of the second game. Her Septima allows her to seal the powers of other adepts, making her a formidable fighter for peace. Gunvolt also returns, though mostly in a wolf-like form after his powers are sealed. One ongoing issue with Gunvolt's overarching plot, most apparent in this third game, is how often it drops supporting characters and rushes through plot threads. There's little concern for steady narrative through lines, leading to uneven storytelling that can be hard to follow. That said, the characters themselves are charming and entertaining to watch interact at all times. This strength comes through in the hub areas, where protagonists can chat with allies about a wide range of topics. Dialogue also occurs during missions, but since the first 2 games are only voiced in Japanese, following along is difficult unless you stop playing to read the subtitles. The third game adds English voicing, which does help considerably. Narrative issues aside, Gunvolt truly shines in its gameplay, and all 3 titles deliver immensely satisfying action with distinct design choices. The structure takes cues from Mega Man with linear stages and themed bosses over relatively short playtimes. Where Gunvolt stands out is in its replayability and light RPG elements, but each character's mechanics deserve their own spotlight. Gunvolt's core mechanic involves tagging enemies with ranged projectiles, which place a reticle on them. This enables him to hone in on electrical attacks through a number of targets that he can tag depending on his equipped gun. These guns can be crafted using materials found from enemies and hidden stage secrets. Now, when attacking with electricity, a force field appears, negating projectiles. Managing health, special skills, and force field usage adds a light layer of resource management to the fights. Copen, on the other hand, is a completely different playstyle. While he also wields a firearm, his tagging mechanic involves dashing into enemies. His aerial mobility is exceptional, and he gains new abilities from bosses in a very Mega Man-inspired way. Copen's gameplay favors aggressive offense, while Gunvolt works best at a safer range. Whoever you play as, they're both a joy to control thanks to responsive movement, well-designed levels, and unique approaches to combat. Kirin plays like a fusion of the two. She tags enemies with projectiles, then slashes them with her sword. She can also throw diagonally to launch herself from specific footholds, including enemies, allowing for enemy jumping and quick warps when timed well. She has the steepest learning curve of the three, but mastering her moveset is just as satisfying as the others. Gunvolt also appears in playable form during parts of her game, adding some explosive flair to certain encounters. Gunvolt 3 introduces image pulses as well, which are physical manifestations of Gunvolt's memories that summon support characters. With over 100 variations, image pulses offer the most customization in the trilogy and give the third game strong replay value, and I'd say potentially making it the standout for those who enjoy experimentation. Replayability is where these games excel, especially the first two entries. The loop of completing the stages, tackling optional challenges, and earning rewards based on performance never gets old. The ranking system is tied to resources called kudos, encouraging mastery across every stage. Difficulty settings affect how easily kudos are lost, and checkpoints allow you to either bank your score or risk it for a higher multiplier. The risk-reward mechanic adds tension, especially during the well-crafted boss fights that test reaction and pattern recognition. High kudos also unlock vocal tracks from Lumen and others, adding a musical payoff for the skilled play. As a collection, Azure Striker Gunvolt Trilogy Enhanced has a few quirks. The first game lacks some quality of life features from the later titles, particularly in how missions are handled. Missions must be activated before they can be completed, and Gunvolt 1 limits how many you can take at a time, which can make replaying stages feel excessive. There's also no autosave, which is a surprising omission for modern releases. In terms of enhancements, the first two games now run on the third game's engine, and difficulty has been adjusted, along with the characters gaining a few new abilities. Copen and Lola have re-recorded dialogue from the voice actors in the Luminous Avengers X spin-off, and many smaller gameplay tweaks are present, though most will only be noticed by dedicated fans. The most noticeable addition for all players is the inclusion of the localized audio drama CDs, accessible from the library menu alongside all of Gunvolt 3's DLC content. On PlayStation 5, I encountered no technical issues, though the Steam version reportedly has a rocky launch that has since been patched. For 2D action fans who haven't experienced the rush of Gunvolt's design, this is a great place to start. Azure Striker Gunvolt Trilogy Enhanced brings together some of Inti Create's finest work in one affordable package. While the storytelling is messy and most of the collection's refinements will primarily appeal to longtime fans, these three games are still brilliant once you fall into their rhythm. Whether or not Gunvolt has a future beyond this release, this anniversary set serves as both a celebration and a reminder of what made the series so special. NoiseyPixel is giving Azure Striker Gunvolt Trilogy Enhanced an 8.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. NoiseyPixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth, and subscribe to keep up with all our future content. NoiseyPixel.